Warrior Mindset Podcast. We are your guide as you make your way through life, getting better 1% every day. We believe that life is lived and true victory won through adversity. Nothing easy is ever worth it. We believe in the warrior ethos and support those that choose to walk that path.
What is up, Warrior Mindset Nation? Nah, I don't like that. I was just trying something new. Forgive me. Welcome back. We're going to go through a debrief here. We haven't done this in a while. As a refresher, what this is an attempt to use social media for good, if that's a possible thing that you can do. I like to try to be intentional and not just mindlessly scroll through things. So I try to find things and then learn from them, even if sometimes they're what not to do. And a lot of times it's just little tidbits of advice and things that we can think about. So let's get into it. I've got a couple of things for you. This slide that I bookmarked, I really liked it, and I wanted to go through some of it. Six best mental health advices I was ever given. Some of these are pretty deep. I'll embed this as well in the post for the show. If it still bothers you after 24 hours, speak up within 48 hours. That's very helpful. I actually had heard that a long time ago from someone else. Someone else gave me this advice. And what I have done since then, that I don't know if it's really helped me in the long run actually get through to people and communicate, because it sort of goes with the last one here, number 6, but we can circle back to that. But something that I've done is I will write an email. I'll write a draft. So I'll just open an email. I won't put a to, like, because I don't want to accidentally send it, so I won't fill that part out. But I'll just open it up and I'll write my issue with the thing. I'll say like, hey, so and so, you did this. It made me feel this way, and then here is why it pisses me off, or whatever it is, or what I would like to tell you about that thing. And I will just save that thing for a day. So I'll just keep it in my drafts folder and I'll save it, and I'll come back the next day around the same time and I'll read it. And one, if I've still been thinking about those things, if I've still been sort of spiraling on those things, or it's still been bugging me, and and I read the email again or the note, and I have the same feelings, then that's probably something I should address with that individual, or the team, or whatever, because it stayed in my mind for an entire day, and it helps me sort of check myself to see where I stand. I would say 95% of the time I just delete the email, because I don't feel the same way, because it was me misunderstanding the situation, me misreading the situation, or the other person not understanding me, or just something that, with a little more time and experience going through the rest of the day or whatever, or more interactions, I realize certain things. So it sort of changes some of the dynamic. But again, if it's something that, I'm still hot on, whatever, I will usually maybe not send that email, but I will try to talk to that individual, or mentally file it away for something to bring up the moment I can. And that helps. And it helps me not have a hot head. So number 2 here, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for taking care of. I don't know how many times I've given someone, advice in the gym, or interpersonal advice or whatever, and realized that it's not something I'm currently doing for, or, with myself. If you're taking care of someone else, it's like the opposite of that old saying, treat others like you want to be treated, right? It's sort of like treat others like you would treat yourself, like you treat others that you're taking care of. Give yourself that same self-care. Give yourself that same space. Give yourself that same grace and empathy. We are usually our own worst critics, and we treat ourselves terribly most of the time. A bad day doesn't mean a bad life. How many times do you just kind of have something bad happen to you? And I don't mean like the worst things that can happen. I mean just like little things, like something goes wrong at work, or you don't get that raise, or someone dings you in traffic or whatever. It doesn't mean everything is terrible. It's like if you ever like bought a new car, and then suddenly you see the same car everywhere else you drive. It's because you're looking for it. So most of the time, if you're looking for the bad and everything, you'll find it. So a bad day doesn't mean a bad life. Okay. The critical judge in your head does not tell the truth, and it does not have your best interest at heart. Yeah, man. Overthinking is not a good thing most of the time. Yeah. And back to number 2 there, the critic in your head is the worst critic in the world. And sometimes the best things that could happen to you never happen because you don't get started. And I know that sounds like more Instagram drivel, but it really is true. Your brain can't be grateful and anxious at the same time. When anxiety takes hold, look for gratitude. That one is, so you are what you think, right? A lot of times anxiety is based on, the fact that you aren't doing something that you should be doing, or you haven't done something you should have done, or you haven't said something you should have said, or whatever. You're overthinking and you're worrying, right? So use that as a cue and try to fill your mind with, gratitude. Try to fill your mind with, things that you can be thankful for when you're in that, you feel yourself going down that rabbit hole, there are those people that will just, come in the room and they change the mood of everyone. Study those people and watch how they are and what they do and what they bring to that room. Stop apologizing for expressing your feelings. You're convincing yourself that you are not worth the space you take up. There you go. Right back to number 2 there. Right back to the number 1 thing there, right? So, there are those people, maybe you're one of them or whatever, they'll tell you something and they'll immediately apologize. That's not what it's about. If it's something that you're feeling, it's something you should be communicating. You're worthy of that communication. And then another test is that if you are communicating those true feelings and whoever you're communicating it to is not responding appropriately, they're over responding or whatever, then that's another test for you. That's another sign for you that maybe you're in the wrong room. But at the end of the day, you are slowly putting yourself in that mental place that makes you feel like you're not worth the space that you're taking up in that room, with that team or whatever it is. So stop apologizing. Just say it. Some really great advice there, and those are all small interpersonal things. And, again, I'll link that up and, study those things. Maybe take one of those things and try to do it this week. This next one, let's see if I can get it here. I don't know that I can play it. I don't think the sound will get in there, but I'm going to try it, and then I can also edit it in there if I need to. So here we go.
I was just a SEAL, but on this other side, I had this like kind of secret life where I was practicing, my martial arts, and I was trying to meditate. A lot of the meditation stuff, then I realized that I was really kind of doing because the job itself put me alone so often, or in total silence so often, that those were my practice times. So then I realized, like a light bulb went off, said, you know what, I don't have to be a Zen monk and like find space to sit down on my little bench and meditate. I'm doing it all the time. If I'm sitting in an SUV underwater driving toward a target for 8 hours, I'm meditating, right? And if I'm walking toward a objective for 16 hours, I'm meditating, right? I'm breathing deeply, right? I'm everything. I'm just in this altered state of meditation, but I'm still able to hear and detect what's going on. It's not like I went catatonic, you know, it's like I was right there.
Any debrief is not complete without a nice slide from Coach Divine. I've known him, kind of haven't really spoken with him or emailed with him or messaged with him or much in a long time, but he is a mentor of mine, and had the privilege of getting him to come speak at a conference I put together several years ago, and have just learned a tremendous amount from him. And one of the things that I've learned, he has a couple of black belts, and under his belt, under two different similar systems. But one of the stories he tells is how one of his sensei would have him meditate at the end of class. Just spending time alone in your own head. And I've begun to do that in some of my classes. I have my students spend time just, box breathing, which he taught me about, and some other styles of relaxed or meditative breathing or whatever, and just have people spend time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, alone with themselves. And I think it's priceless. And this is a good lesson. I've also had someone ask me through the comments here a question through the podcast question thing that you can send in, asking me about meditation and breathing and how they've had a hard time, sitting quietly. And I think this is a good lesson, is that you can literally do this anywhere. You can stop and relax and breathe, even if it's for 60 seconds. But also when you're working on something that might be repetitive, or something that might put you in the zone, or, during a workout, or riding a bike on a long ride or a run or whatever, you can do this then. It is being mindful of what you're doing in the moment that you're doing it. Oftentimes at the same time, if you can focus on your breathing, or focus on your cadence or whatever, you can sort of begin to meld the two together. And that's what he's talking about here, in that he learned that, as a Navy SEAL, even during some of his missions, some of the workup or whatever, there were plenty of times when he was able to be in a meditative state, and he learned to take advantage of it. He's a very wise man. If you haven't looked him up, go look him up. He has a couple of things, SEAL Fit, and then Unbeatable Mind, which is where we're looking at this at. A couple of his things. Love that man. All right, we'll get through this last one here. The book Atomic Habits is a great book. I've listened to the audiobook. I've yet to read the letters, read the book. But this is a good little recap, I think, the post that this Books and Things Explained put together. It's a book by James Clear. So we're going to go through a couple of these things that they pulled out: habit loop, build identity-based habits, the Goldilocks Rule, habit stacking, and then how to break bad habits and create good ones. Again, it's a great book. So we're going to get into this habit loop thing here. Cue, craving, response, reward. So, I remember it being like a 3-step process. The 3-step process thing that makes up a habit includes the cue, the routine, and the reward, right? So the cue triggers the brain to initiate the routine, and the reward reinforces the behavior, making it more likely to be repeated in the future. So understanding and manipulating this loop is key to how you build new habits in your life and remove old ones. So it's sort of like the OODA loop. It gets talked about in a lot of self-defense circles: observe, orient, decide, act. So it's just knowing the steps that you or your brain or your body's going through when you're creating habits or whatever, and manipulating those things. Okay. So that's interesting in and of itself, from more of a scientific look at how you can work on changing those things. So cues, cravings, response, and rewards, right? So you learn the cue, learn the thing that's going to kick off the habit, or if it's a bad habit you're trying to uncover, learn those cues, identify the cravings, identify the thing that you're getting from it, or the thing that whatever you do solves. The response, so that's the actual thing, the little system that you're doing, the habit, whatever, and then the reward, it's like what you get out of it, what you can begin to stack in your favor. Okay. Build identity-based habits. Okay. This is, the idea that habits become an extension of your identity, right? And if you do that, if you make a habit an extension of who you are, who you want to be, the more likely to stick, right? Your beliefs, values, self-image, rather than just like, isolated actions or whatever, so we want to make these things align with your sense of self and your sense of purpose. It's going to help you really maintain that habit building process. So using things like a phrase, right? Like he suggests, I'm the type of person who does this. I am the type of person who eats healthy. I am the type of person that doesn't look at my phone all the time, and begin to build those character traits, based on who you want to be and what you think you want to be, right? Out of those things. The Goldilocks rule, right? The story of the three bears, right? It's just right. So this is that you're more likely to stick with a habit when it's not too easy and it's not too difficult, but just in the right zone. Challenging enough to be engaging, but not so hard that you can't ever get to it. It's just sort of a way, to get to peak motivation. Okay. So there's a few things, like I've heard some people recently in the gym that I own talking about wanting to get their habits back on track. They want to get, it's the new year, so they want to do some things. And I always suggest starting small. So one of the things we'll do is, there's certain types of people that can just wholeheartedly attack something, but take for example a diet, right? Most of the time, if you go hard on a diet for 4 weeks or whatever, you'll do great, right? You'll 4 weeks, boom, you'll lose some weight, get somewhere feeling good, and then you'll immediately stop, right? Because the time frame is over. There are somebody was talking about this thing for Andy Frisella's 75 hard, right? I've done that a couple of times myself. The first time I finished it, I cheated to get through it. The second time I actually did it. So it took a couple of times. And what it is 75 days is a certain amount of things you do: working out twice a day, eating a diet, reading a certain amount of books, taking a selfie, whatever. And you do them every day. And then if you don't do them or you miss one, you restart, right? So you can be on day 74, miss one, and you have to go back to day one. So that's why it's called 75 hard. And it's the idea is that will change you. And, I think it works for some people, but for most people, I think it's too hard. And trying to tackle something like that, by yourself can be really difficult. So one of the things we do in the gym is we have a couple of types. We have one that's like a full on, let's go, get on this regimen, this diet, whatever, call it a boot camp, whatever you will. Another one is a habit replacement plan. And, a lot of times me as a coach, after a quick interview, I'll just kind of decide which way I think we should go based on the person. Maybe that's fair, maybe it's not. But I think the habit building thing is better. So for an example, we'll take 6 weeks of habit building program. Week 1 is just removing, like if it's diet based, it's removing soda, drinking Cokes and whatever you're drinking, taking that sugary drink out. That's week 1. Week 2 will be, maybe you are eating French fries twice a week or whatever, 3 times a week with your meal. We'll remove those. So all these, and we'll talk. Maybe it could be smoking, whatever, or in the case of most dudes, dip or whatever. So whatever those things, we'll try to stack those habits, which leads to the second one here, habit stacking. Okay. This is the process of attaching a new habit to an existing habit, thus making it easier to build that next one, right? One of the examples they have is like, doing 10 push-ups after you brush your teeth, or making your bed after you brush your teeth, whatever. So, we kind of use that. So week 1 would be week 1 would be not, doing that thing like dipping or removing the sugar. Week 2 is one other thing, like adding in exercise or a certain level of exercise, whatever. So we've got the 2 going. And then so week 3, we add another thing or remove another thing. And we build up all the way to week 6. When we get to week 6, the end of that, we've done the thing that we started with for 6 weeks, right? And that's the idea of stacking those habits. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah. So there's some things here, how to break bad habits and create good ones. There's a lot of, the book has a lot of stuff to get into. Identify the cue, right? So looking at that thing that triggers you. And these are all pieces, parts that you can do to start to break something down, like a scientific way of looking at it, which I suppose is maybe why he gave it the title he did. But identifying that trigger, right? See, finding the thing that sort of sets you off or whatever. This is a big one in like smoking and stuff. It's social, or it's stress based or whatever. So finding that thing that makes you crave the thing or whatever. So writing that down, then making it unattractive, right? To yourself. So reduce the reward associated with the bad habit, in this case that we're looking at, and increase the cost for it. So it could be something like, when I'm feeling stressed, I go get a cup of coffee, but I'm trying to cut back on my coffee. So I'm going to have that cup of coffee, but then I have to go do 50 burpees. Like something like that's not maybe necessarily a good example, but you get the point. Making things difficult for yourself, like increasing the effort required to form the bad habit. Like, for example, something I do is that I like, when it comes to food, if there's a certain type of food that I like, peanut butter, I'm bad about it. I just simply won't buy it. It won't be in the house. So I have to then go and get it from somewhere. Like if you're a mindless scroller, you like to sit on the couch and scroll your phone, remove the app from your phone, but put it on your computer, right? Like take Instagram, for example. A lot of people will just kind of mindlessly scroll, but I need it for business. So put it on your computer. You can still do your business work on your computer, but remove the, adding that friction to your ease of getting to it. Create a substitute, right? There you go. That was another one, right? So put it on your computer versus on your phone. They're like dopamine. That we could do a whole podcast on that, but that's really what you're getting when you're hitting that scroll or getting that like or whatever. Find something else that helps you get that thing, if I don't know, if it's Coke, if it's soda, not that type of Coke, but if it's like, Coca-Cola, maybe you get the Coke Zero for a bit, to remove the actual sugar. And before anyone writes me that, sugar-free drinks are just as bad as sugar drinks, like, check yourself. We can have another conversation about that later. Make it a habit, right? So there's another one, but the other things we just talked about, habit stacking. There's lots of techniques, and the book has even more. reframing your identity, back to the other one where we're, I am the type of person that does this. I am not the type of person that smokes. I am not the type of person that mindlessly scrolls. Build those things into your identity and then try to live them. And then, the last one they have here, let's see if they have it here. They don't have it here on the slide, but the last one is, celebrating small wins. Every time you do something that's in line with what you want to do, every time you do that good habit or have removed that bad habit, find some way to celebrate. So there you go. Haven't done a debrief in a while. So maybe this is helpful, maybe this isn't. I usually get good questions and responses when I do these. Going to try to do more this year. I hope you like them. If you find something cool, send it to me. Warrior Mindset, you can find ways to contact me there, but send it to me. I'd love to look at it. I'd love to talk about it. And until the next one, get after it, y'all.